Good afternoon. Hello. This is day 103. Shortly after the attack on October 7th, I had a chance to visit Israel and meet with the families of the hostages. It was an incredibly emotional moment for me, and it really brought home just the unimaginable horrors that the hostages endure every day and their families endure every day. I made a personal commitment at that time, as our government did, that I would do everything in my power every day to bring the hostages home safely. And since that time, we have met with leaders in our own country. We've met with the family members on many occasions. We've met with the Israelis. We've met with leaders in the Arab world, and we continue to do that every day. And we just acknowledge the courage of those that are with us today, the family members, for making it clear that you will not rest till their family members are home and they will not be forgotten. And we say to you the same thing. We will not rest until the hostages are home, and we will not forget our commitment to bring them home safely. We thank you for always being willing to bring us together so that we can strategize and do everything humanly possible to make that a reality. I'm going to call first on three of my colleagues to give very brief remarks, because we really want to hear from the family members and get an update as to the circumstances. With that, let me turn it over first to the Majority Leader, who visited Israel right after October 7th and has done everything with us to strategize to bring the hostages home, Senator Schumer.
Thank you, Ben, and thank you for your wonderful leadership on this. And I thank all of my colleagues here. This is a bipartisan, heartfelt effort by the United States Senate, because we feel this so deeply, so deeply. And of course, to the families, the anguish that you must go through. Just in the room there, seeing the pictures brings tears to my eyes. These beautiful boy. And you can imagine, if it brings tears to our eyes, the anguish of a close relative, the mishpucha of the families, feel. We have 6 Americans who are still here, who's still there, and over 130 hostages cruelly held in Hamas's hands. And then we think of hostages we had talked about, Judith Weinstein and Gad Haggai, who were murdered by Hamas. So we know we cannot rest. And the families being here just importunes us even further, because just seeing you and touching you emotionally, tremendously, to all of us. Even today, I discussed with a few of the families a new strategy that we can implement, and I promise to try and do that. It's just heartfelt. As Ben mentioned, right after the 7th, a group of us, bipartisan, were in Israel and met with the families and just cried for an hour. And one woman said, every minute is like a month. That's what you do when you live with this. So we are going to do everything we can. We are going to do everything we can, because our hearts are broken, and we must bring them home, all of them. I just want to say to all of you, don't give up hope. There are always new initiatives, as there are right now. And we are making slow, but important progress. Not that that progress can't come fast enough. And let me be clear, if Hamas had any basic shred of humanity, they would have released the hostages already. But that's when we saw what happened on the 7th. Humanity does not intersect with these vicious leaders of Hamas. So I want to conclude just by telling the families one little thing. 2 things. I've told you before, my name is a Hebrew word. It's a derivation of a Hebrew word, shomer, which to those of you who don't know Ivrit, I don't either, but I sound sometimes a little bit Hebrew. Shomer means guardian, watchman. My ancestors were guardians of the ghetto wall in a place called Chortkiv. The Yiddish word is shomer, They came to America, they wrote Schumer. But that's my job, to be a show-mayor for you. And second, this. My father, for whom he struggled his whole life, he was an exterminator, he had his economic privations. But he was a wonderful man. He passed away 2 years ago, and he's still with me. He talks to me. And he taught me values, above all, two. One, always help people who need help. Well, if there are ever people who needed help, it's you. And second, he said to me, because he struggled in his life, if you're doing something important, look in your heart. Make sure it's the right thing to do. And then persist and persist and persist and never give up, and God will reward you and you will succeed. We will persist together, persist and persist and persist. We will never give up, and we hope and pray that God will reward us for that persistence. Thank you.
We'll turn it over now to my colleague from the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Senator Risch.
Well, thank you. I think by now this is obvious, and but repeat saying, and that is that this is not a partisan issue. This is not a partisan issue. It's been over 100 days since Hamas committed a brutal terrorist attack that killed over 1,200 people and took 240 Israelis and a dozen Americans hostage. This attack was premeditated, brutal, and horrific, and will live in memory. No facts and no rhetoric can justify or forgive what are clearly subhuman acts. We have not forgotten the hostages and the families. We are working every minute of every day, as those who have spoken here previously have indicated, to ensure a safe return of all 136 remaining hostages, including the 6 Americans. This cannot end and can only come to conclusion when all the hostages have been freed and Hamas has been totally defeated and surrenders unconditionally. Anything else perpetuates Israel's and the region's and the world's insecurity. Others in the region, specifically the Qataris, have an obligation to help. They help shape opinion on the Arab Street and host Hamas in Doha. They are in a unique position to help secure the release of the all hostages. I urge them to do so and to use their position to do so. Our message to the Israeli people remains clear. We stand with you, and we will do all that we can to ensure you can rebuild, defend your land and people, and ensure that Hamas or any other Iranian proxy can never do this again. Thank you.
Senator Ernst.
Thank you. And I want to thank the Senate Foreign Relations Committee for pulling this group together. For over 100 days now, Americans have been held at the mercy of Iran-backed Hamas, 6 of them. Families don't know if their loved one is dead or alive. And as you see here, no parent should have to endure this. Those of us that are parents understand. You know, we love our children, our loved ones, and part of us is missing when we are not with them. We can't let these families' pain go unanswered, and I'm taking action, and the rest of the Congress should join with me. This month, I led a bipartisan, bicameral delegation to 4 countries in the Middle East, and the mission of that delegation was solely focused on the return of our hostages. That was our mission. We called on leaders in the region to pressure Hamas and to release these hostages. We cannot let up in holding our partners' feet to the fire to reunite these families. These families have once again come to Congress asking for action and asking for answers. And there is only one response, and that is bring these hostages home, bring these Americans home now. You all know and understand every second counts.
We're now going to hear from some of the families of the hostages. And again, I want to thank them for being here. Their courage is amazing. They're not giving up hope, and we're not going to give up hope. We stand with them. We'll first hear from John Poland, who's the father of Hirsch.
My name is John Poland, and my son, Hirsch Goldberg Poland, was kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival, taken hostage into Gaza 103 days ago. A music lover, he was there celebrating his 23rd birthday with one of his best friends. As Hamas rockets started to fly early that morning on October 7th, Hirsch and 28 others from the music festival ended up in a 5-foot by 8-foot above-ground bomb shelter. The bomb shelter came under grenade and machine gun attack by Hamas. 18 of the 29 young people were killed that morning, including Hirsch's close friend, Aner Shapira. Shortly before 9 a.m., Hirsch was taken out of the shelter at gunpoint. From eyewitness accounts and subsequent video footage, we know that he was loaded onto a Hamas pickup truck after having his left arm, his dominant arm, blown off. And I'll show, this is the last picture I have of Hirsch. That bone sticking out is where his left arm used to be. For 103 days, my wife, Rachel, and I have received minimal information on Hirsch. We don't even know if he's alive. There are still 136 hostages, including 8 Americans, 2 of whom we now know have been killed, being held by Hamas. It is believed that close to 30 of the hostages are no longer alive. We know the kinds of condition the hostages are being held in. Many have been gravely injured, like Hirsch. They're suffering abuse, sexual violence, starvation, and dehydration. Many need medical care. Hirsch is in dire need of medical care. It is unconscionable that hostages like Hirsch were taken severely injured and have not received medical attention from international aid organizations, including the ICRC, which receives over $600 million a year in funding from the United States government, and whose citizens in this conflict have seen no benefit from those funds. In 103 days of captivity, while world leaders work toward a deal to secure the hostage release, international aid organizations must be permitted to offer medical care to the hostages. The announcement now that medicines will be brought in to some hostages after 103 days is not enough. Hirsch is far more than a hostage. He's an avid traveler known for his curiosity and his wanderlust. An American citizen born in California, raised in Virginia. He had a ticket for December 27th to spend a year traveling the world. He could be your brother, your son, your nephew, your loved one. Many senators in this room, excuse me, have been to Israel since October 7th. They've witnessed the devastation wrought by Hamas attacks. I applaud the bipartisan efforts that we're seeing today and the efforts of the Biden administration to date, but we need to do more. After 103 days, of our loved ones in captivity, it's clear we are failing. 103 days is 103 days too many, and we are running out of time. The hostages are running out of time. I've briefly shared Hirsch's story here to raise awareness for him and the other 135 hostages, including 5 living Americans, we hope. But it's day 103, and we must be beyond the state of awareness. This is an emergency that requires action. And as Americans, we expect the United States, the greatest superpower in the history of the world, to use its full power to secure the hostages' release. This includes making sure that all partners in the region make this a top priority, and that includes those who maintain close ties with Hamas. Every minute that goes by is 1 minute closer to death for our loved ones. I implore you, bring all of the hostages home now.
We'll now hear from Yardine Gunnan, sister of Romy.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for being here and making this happen. On October 7th, I woke up to the sound of Siri calling my sister's name at 6:40 a.m. At first, I ignored the phone call, but within a second, I got myself together and answered. Romy, my little sister, is calling me so early in the morning while she's in a music festival? I suddenly understood that something must not be okay. My name is Yarden Gonen, and just as a side note, like Senator Schumer said, Gonen in Hebrew is protect. And my little sister, Romy, only 23 years old, went to the Nova Music Festival. Instead of having the time of her life, celebrating love, peace, freedom, and friendship, she was the victim of unimaginable hate, torture, and pure evil. After she saw her best friend murdered in front of her eyes, she was forcefully kidnapped by Hamas terrorists into Gaza. That was 103 days ago. Let that sink in. Romy, our private sunshine, the heart of our family, the one who connects us all together, is at the hands of merciless terrorists. Back to that early October 7th. Romy, is everything okay? I answered her. Actually, no, she answered. I need your help. There are a lot of missiles being fired. I'm scared to death. And this is an open air festival. There is no shelter to go to. 103 days, no daylight. Have you gotten to the car? Yes, she answered, but we're stuck in a traffic jam. For one moment, I was thankful she had reached to her car, hearing her friend Gaia, who was next to her, speaking to her father on the phone. A second later, Romy said, Gaia, why are these people running towards us? Why are those people screaming? Trying to understand the situation, I told her to open up the window. And together we heard shooting around them and shouts of, get out of the car, there are terrorists, run for your lives. 103 days ago. No daylight, no fresh water. Out of breath, she is panting and tells me, we are hiding inside a bush. Okay, are you with Gaia? Don't leave her no matter what, I told her, while hearing enormous and non-stop shooting around them. Are you guys okay? Can you see them? Can they see you? Are there any police around you? Yes, she whispered. There are one policeman here. Okay, good, amazing. Stay with Gaia, don't leave her no matter what. And Romy told me, it's not okay. There is only one policeman, and there are too many. But don't worry, I'm with Gaia. She's lowering her voice. Who else is with you? I asked. Do you feel safe? Do you see them? Shh, be quiet, please. They will hear you, she answered. So I froze. 103 days, no daylight, no fresh water, no food. Ben came to rescue us, she called me to say. And we got 10 minutes of hope. Ben picked her, Gaia, and another man named Ophir from the area, trying to rescue them from the hands of the terrorists. 10 minutes of grace. That's all they have had. And then Romy called my mother. Mom, we were ambushed. They're shooting at us. Ben is most likely dead. Gaia was shot and she's not responding. Ophir is wounded badly. I was shot on my arm. If no one will come quickly, I'll be dead. The entire conversation was 40 minutes. A phone call that ended with my sister, my beautiful, amazing, gentle, caring, and loving little sister being kidnapped into Gaza by cruel terrorists after she saw her best friend murdered in front of her eyes. 103 days, no daylight, no fresh water, no food, no air. My sister has asthma and chronic sinusitis. She needs her inhaler in order to breathe properly. We can only imagine how she's struggling, gasping for air wherever she's held underground. Can you grasp the feeling of fighting to breathe? Such a basic need. 103 days, no privacy. Can you imagine sleeping, going to the bathroom, changing your clothes when someone is watching you every move? It's not only that you're in control of someone else in your daily basic needs, it's also the fear from every move, every breath, every word could be the one that will lead to another sexual abuse, to another threat on your life, another rape. As a women, we understand the feeling of insecurity when we walk alone at night. When someone is walking behind us, the fear they could gag your mouth, drag you into a quiet corner, and do whatever they want, where no one can hear you. Imagine how it feels like, not in your own street of your hometown, but in the hands of terrorists for 103 days. We don't need to imagine anymore. We have too many testimonies from the hostages that was released. 103 days of horrible pain in her body, of her bleeding gunshot wound, of her paralyzed hand, barely moving her fingers, suffering from every movement. Do you think anyone over there cares for her pain? I miss my little sister so much. I miss her laugh. I miss her smile. I miss the way she's lighting up the room when she enters. I miss hearing her troubles. I miss helping her when she needs advice. I miss her hugs. I miss her crushing on my couch. I miss our Sundays when we go dancing together. I miss her presence in my life. Gaia, Ben, Ophir, and another 1,300 will never get those moments again. But my Romy has a chance to win her life back. My little sister, the best human being on earth, is still alive and she needs our help. What can she do to help herself? I'm asking you. Nothing. She's trapped in this situation for 103 days. What can we do to help her? Everything. You have the power, the mandate, and the leverage to prevent any more harm, to stop this barbaric cruelty of the Hamas terror organization, to help with the release of all those innocent people that got trapped into this horror. I like to end my remarks with this. You are all lawmakers of the most powerful country in the world, a beacon of democracy, a defender of civil and human rights. Please, with this great power comes great responsibility. I ask you, please do everything you can to get our hostages home where they deserve to be. This is a violation of international law, a basic human rights, and quite simply a win for global terrorism if we don't get them back now. On a personal note, you all represent many Americans from all different walks of life. You're also fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters to someone. I think everyone can agree, both on this committee and across this great nation, that if it was their sister in the dark tunnel, subjected to abuse and brutality at the hands of pure evil, they would do anything in their power to bring their sisters back. 103 days. They're running out of time. We are running out of time. But we are not running out of hope. please bring Romy and another 135 human beings home. Thank you.
When you hear what the hostages have gone through and are going through, we can and must do more. We'll now hear from Orna Nutra, mother of Omar.
My name is Orna Nutra. I'm the mother of Omer Nutra, a New Yorker, an Israeli American, abducted on October 7th and has been held hostage in Gaza since with no sign of life. We are at day 103 since our son Omer was captured by Hamas, and the world continues to spin. Omer, 22 years old, is described by his friends as warm-hearted and caring, fun, the goofy guy that brings people together and always sees the good in them. Everyone is better in his presence. To me, he's my boy, and my heart is broken as I think about what he's been going through. There's a huge hole in our family, and within all the communities he's formed around him in his young life. The same is true for Idan Alexander, whose parents are here with us today. Idan is deeply missed by his younger sister and brother in the community in Tenafly, New Jersey, who anxiously wait for his return. It is also true for the Chen family. Ruby Chen, the father of Itai, is with us here now. Itai is a Boy Scout, an NBA fan, a mentor to young kids who are lost without him. It has been over a month since we met with President Biden, who showed much compassion and encouraged us to keep up the hope. We're trying really hard to keep up hope. But at no point in our lives so far have hope and prayer in and of themselves without action ever yielded results. So we do what we know. We travel the world. We met with leaders and people of influence. We've spoken in huge rallies and on the media more times than one could ever imagine. We speak in the name of those who cannot speak for themselves. A week ago today, we stood on the border with Gaza, so close to Omer. We screamed his name through huge speakers, hoping that in some way, somehow, he might hear us and know that we're fighting for him. We asked him to stay strong. We shouted that we're coming for him. We told him that we loved him, and we urged him not to lose hope. But so far, we have failed our son. We and the whole civilized world have failed the 136 remaining hostages, among them children, women, men, injured, elderly people. They are all still held in Gaza at gunpoint, in an endless underground maze of tunnels. We know that the IDF has found cages that were used to hold hostages. We've heard about torture and abuse. No human being should be held captive underground in those hostile conditions for one day, let alone over 100 days. I still find it hard to believe that this is our reality, just a regular anonymous family from Long Island. I've been asked whether this was my son's dream to join the IDF. No. Omer dreams of becoming a doctor one day. It is no one's dream to have to protect their country from heinous attacks such as the one Israel suffered on October 7th. It was my son's sense of duty and love for his family that put him in that position. He nor anyone else had anticipated the insanity that ensued on that day and every day since. Our sons have so much yet to give to the world. We must do everything possible to bring them back. Any deal put forward must include them all. These boys could be your boys. they must be brought home. They cannot be treated as a last priority. They cannot be overlooked. We're grateful to all the leaders supporting us, but after 103 days, they must do more. Whether it's Israel, the US, Qatar, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, other global leaders must do everything to get them out now. Their lives depend on it.
We'll now hear from Adi Marcioni, mother of Noah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adi Marciano, and I am the mother of Noah Marciano. Noah was a soldier in Nahal Oz base. She was captured and murdered by Hamas terrorists while in captivity. As I stand here today, a black cloud over me, and it is difficult to find words to describe it. It is unhuman to go through what we have experienced in the past 3 months. The tragedy that occurred on October 7 is an event that will be forever attached in the shared history of all of us, those sitting here. I stand here before you today not to tell Noah's story, but I stand here with a torch that illuminates the darkness, a torch that will illuminate the dark corners that are neglected. This torch is Noah Marciano. Noah's name is not just a name, it is a memory of the cruelty that erupted on October 7. Noah, the innocent soul whose future was brutally stolen from her, but as she was in her life, she is now also become of light a reminder that we must act, that we cannot stand idly by and watch our world shatter in front of our eyes. Noah was murdered in a hospital, Shifa Hospital, a place that was meant to be a refuge, a place of healing. But in this scared place, we cannot let Noah's story end here. We cannot allow her death to be in vain. We must remember her, but more than that, we must act. Noah's tragic end should be a wake-up call for all of us. We must not allow any more innocent lives to be lost. Noah was not the only one there. There are others still in captivity, still living in fear. They are our brothers, our sisters, our friends. We cannot let them suffer the same fate as Noah. We need to fight for them, for the right to live without fear, for the right to come home. I came here because we need to tell the world about our struggle, about our fight for justice. We need all of you to join this cause. We cannot do it alone. We need each other. Let's stand together, hand in hand, heart to heart, and demand justice. Let's ensure that we do everything in our power to bring our loved one home. Let's make sure that Noah will not be just a victim, but a symbol of hope. Our war is not just for Noah's name or for the sake of all the other hostages. We fight for humanity, for the basic right that every person deserves. We fight for a world where no one must live in fear. We fight for justice, for peace, for freedom, and most importantly, for those who cannot fight now, who are in dark tunnels with no ability to defend themselves. Noah was the first to be murdered in captivity. And I see her today as a lighthouse, showing us the way home. We can ensure that Noah's light continue to shine if we bring everyone home quickly now. Thank you.
We'll now hear from Liz Naftali, who's the aunt of the released Abigail, who I think we all fell in love with.
Hi, I am Liz Hirsch-Naftali, the great aunt of Abigail Moore Edon. 103 days ago, early in the morning on October 7th, my niece Smadar, an American-Israeli mother, her husband Roe, were murdered in front of their 3 young children in cold blood by Hamas terrorists. On that day, we also believe that Hamas terrorists had murdered 3-year-old Abigail. We only learned a few days later that Abigail had survived the murder and crawled out from underneath her father's bloodied body, covered in blood herself, and ran to safety to a neighbor. And then after that, this neighbor and her 3 children were taken hostage for 50 days. For 50 days, we prayed that Abigail was safe. We prayed that Abigail was alive, and we prayed that this mother, Hagar, was taking care of Abigail with her own 3 children. On November 26th, 2 days after Abigail turned 4 years old, she was released from Gaza. And I'm here today as a family member of a hostage survivor because the U.S. government worked with Israel, Qatar, and other nations to save Abigail's life. We know that diplomatic negotiations work, as they did release Abigail and over 100 children and women, but it was over 50 days ago. I want to thank all of the senators here, many we've met with here on Capitol Hill, many we've met with in Israel. They've carried the pictures of Abigail and others with them as they have gone on this mission, and it is really impressive to us that this is a bipartisan commitment to bringing back our hostages. I also want to take a moment to thank all of the staff of these senators who have also been working tirelessly since October to make sure that we are taken care of and that the senators are able to do the work they need to do to help us to bring back our loved ones. I also want to take a moment to thank President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Secretary of State Blinken, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and all in the U.S. government who have met with us and have been stalwart in their efforts, because we know that it would not have been possible without them for us to have a release 50 days ago at the end of November, which saved Abigail's lives and the lives of over 100 more women and children. We are grateful to the work that Qatar has done, because we know that their negotiations have also brought back Abigail and over 100 hostages. We are thankful for all of the others in the region, the Egyptians, the Saudis, whoever has been influencing this work, and we ask them to continue. Because it's been 50 days, no other hostages have been released. This is too long, and too many lives are at stake, and we need to do more. There are still over 130 hostages in Gaza: children, sons, daughters, mothers, fathers, grandparents. Among them, 6 Americans. They are injured, starving, raped, tortured, and they are still in the dark tunnels below ground in Gaza. These are real people. These are innocent people. These hostage families are frustrated that the further release has been delayed. They have not seen their family members. They do not have information. And what I want to take a moment to talk about is that this holdup is really not with the U.S. or with the Qatars. This holdup is with the Netanyahu government. And I've been briefed, as many people have here, that there have been several deals that have been worked out with Hamas that included staggered release of our hostages. These holdups have been from the Bibi Netanyahu government. He has been unwilling to agree to the terms needed to release our loved ones, to make these deals final. Whether we are here as families, we are not diplomats, we are not politicians, but what we see is that these interests are political. And when he tells the public that he wants to release and bring these loved ones home and all the hostages, the lack of action to bring home these loved ones clearly demonstrates to us that he wants to keep this war going to remain in office. And we need Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu to stop making this priority himself, but to make this priority the return of the hostages through a deal. Let me be clear, the loved ones of all these family members, they will not come home alive if there is a prolonged war. We heard what Adi said about her daughter. She was murdered. Yesterday, we saw more families that had to get the news that their children, their loved ones were murdered. We are thankful for the U.S. government, but we need them to continue to do more. President Biden has been very clear that he and the U.S. government are friends of Israel and the Israeli people. But sometimes friends have to deliver hard messages. And after 104 days, we need to deliver those messages. We need to make sure that Israel is put under the pressure to make a deal to stop this war and bring home these hostages. And I say once again, if stopping the war and bringing home these hostages is the priority, then we need to stop this war. 103 days ago, on October 7th, Prime Minister Netanyahu and the government, they failed the Israeli nation and they failed my family. They failed Abigail, who was 3 years old. They failed her siblings. They failed her parents. And they failed 1,300 innocent people and their families. And they failed the families who are standing here today and fighting for their loved ones who are somewhere hostages in Gaza. Every day that Prime Minister Netanyahu and the war cabinet do not negotiate a deal to release all the people who are hostages in Gaza is a failure. And every day the cost of bringing these people home to their loved ones is greater. We must bring them home now. Am Yisrael Chai. And I just want to say, God bless America, because we need America. We need all of these leaders to be standing by us. And I know, as Senator Schumer said, Schumer is Shomer. We need them to guard us, but we need them to help us bring back our loved ones. So I want to say thank you for giving us this opportunity, Senator Cardin, and all of you. And please do everything you can to bring back our hostages.
Susan Collins and I were in Israel together, and we got Abigail's photo and heard her story, which was incredible impact on all of us. Senator Susan Collins.
"103 days. 103 days of unbearable pain, anguish, and so much uncertainty for the family members behind us. I just want to thank Senator Cardin for his leadership in organizing this group meeting today, and to thank the extraordinary, courageous family members who are here to share their personal stories. My message to the family members is this: we have not forgotten you. We will continue to work for the release of your loved ones. We will stand in steadfast support of you as you seek to bring your hostage family members home. Let us never forget that October 7th was the largest loss of Jewish life in a single day since the Holocaust. And it was committed by a brutal terrorist group, Hamas, which has demonstrated that it cares nothing for people who are Jews. It cares nothing if you are 10 months old or 85 years old. We must continue to help bring the hostages home.
Senator Gillibrand's been one of our leaders on this issue. Senator Gillibrand.
Thank you, Senator Cardin, and thank you to my colleagues for raising their voices. These stories are so deeply heartbreaking. As a mother of teenagers, the parents who stand behind us, I can't fathom of their courage, their strength to keep fighting for their children, knowing there's nothing that they can do to ease their pain, to ease their hunger, to ease their thirst, to ease their exhaustion, to ease their fear. They cannot comfort them. They cannot protect them. They can do nothing but keep using their voices to stand up and demand action by the United States, by Israel, by the Arab world, and all of our allies. I've lifted up their stories from the Senate floor. I will continue to do so. But there is so much more we must do. We must use the power of the United States to bring people together to demand the safe release of all hostages immediately. We cannot lose sight that every second is a second that will be wasted if they are not released. I'm grateful that they have had the courage and the persistence and the resilience to come back over and over and over again to the United States to speak with leaders. I'm grateful for my colleagues who have taken trips to the Middle East over the last several months. I was just there last week. This has to remain a priority of the United States and our national security until every hostage is home. Thank you.
Senator Ricketts, what a valuable member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee.
Thank you, Senator Cardin, for putting together this press conference, and I want to thank the families who are here to be able to, again, raise your voices up to remind the world of the travesty of what has happened to their families, where their loved ones have been held for 103 days. And as a father of young people as well, my heart breaks for what you're going through and the anguish you must feel. And to let you know that we feel it here too, and that we in the Senate will continue to fight for you, because we know what horrible things Hamas has done. We've seen the videos that showed the barbaric attack on October 7th. And you have my deepest sympathies for the anguish you feel for the loss of your loved ones. Hamas must surrender. Hamas started this war 103 days ago with a brutal attack, a barbaric attack. They took the 240 hostages, and it's for the hostages that still remain captive that we're here today. Hamas must surrender. And until that day that they surrender, we need to continue to remember Hirsch, Romy, Omer, Noah, Idan, Itay, and all the others that are being held captive, and call on our partners and allies, especially Qatar, who hosts Hamas, that they must work to release these hostages. It is inhumane. And I know, along with my colleagues, we will continue to push for the release of the hostages. The United States government is fully supportive of Israel, and we will work with Israel and our other allies to make this happen. We will not forget. Thank you.
I want to once again acknowledge the extraordinary courage of the family members that are here. We heard from 5. There are many more that are with us today, and they've been organized out there to make sure the story is told and understood and not lost, that we do not forget the hostages, that we never give up hope and that we will not rest until all the hostages returned home safely. That's our mission. It's clear, I think, to all of us that the efforts that we've made have had some success, but not enough success. We must do more, and we need to use every opportunity we have to bring the hostages home safely. And that was clearly made very clearly as we listened to the family members today. I want to also acknowledge that this has been a bipartisan effort. Democrats and Republicans recognize that we need to have unity to have the maximum amount of opportunities to bring the hostages home. We've used that unity in meetings we've had with foreign leaders, with our own government, and with the Israelis. And we will continue to do that, as well as always keeping informed by the family members, because you not only help us to understand what happened and what the hostages are going through, but you really give us the energy, give us the hope that our efforts can be successful. So we don't want to underestimate how important it is what you all do. And recognizing that your hearts have been broken, your spirit has not. You're here in order to have the hostages return home safely. And we can't tell you how much we appreciate that, not only on behalf of the hostages, but on behalf of humanity. Thank you for being here. It's always difficult, these sessions, but they're always important. And we will take that as our charge to do more. And we hope we can be together as the hostages return home safely. Are we opening it up for? Yes.
Do you have any questions from? You can identify yourself and your outlet.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Tricia Zengerle from Reuters. Early in the press conference, Senator Schumer referred to a new initiative that he was going to be pursuing for the release of the hostages. Could you talk about that, please?
I'm not exactly sure what Senator Schumer was referring to. I know he had some conversations with some of the family members. I was part of some of the some of those discussions that took place before we came to the podium. But I know there are efforts going on right now, and I think there are ways that we can strengthen those efforts. There are conversations taking place with all of the stakeholders. We are meeting with representatives of other countries that are engaged in this. We're meeting with the Israelis, and we're certainly meeting with our own representatives. Secretary Blinken will be here tomorrow. We'll be meeting with Secretary Blinken and sharing with him the information that we've learned with his efforts so that we can have a coordinated strategy on behalf of the United States. There'll be a bipartisan discussion with Senator Blinken tomorrow. So the initiatives are ongoing, and we will look for every new initiative we can in order to bring the hostages home.
Next question.
Thank you. Laura Kelly with The Hill. Senator Cardin, Senator Ernst and Senator Rosen had sent a letter to the president saying to make clear to the Qataris that if they did not exercise pressure on Hamas to release the hostages, that to make clear that U.S. relations with Qatar would be at risk. Is anyone in the Senate considering exercising kind of this pressure on Netanyahu? And then for a question to the families of the hostages, do you agree with Ms. Naftali that Netanyahu is a huge barrier to securing the release of the hostages? I know you're a group that is brought together by these horrific circumstances, so you all probably have different opinions, or maybe you can let us know if you have come together on a certain...
The commitment I made when I met with the hostages' families shortly after October 7th is that I would use every opportunity I have every day to bring the hostages home safely. So those opportunities have presented itself with conversations with representatives of Qatar. We've had discussions there. We've had representatives of other countries I've met with, including conversations with Prime Minister Netanyahu. We will continue to use those opportunities to stress that the priority needs to be to bring the hostages home safely. So I'm going to refrain from giving my evaluations at this point because I think it's important that we keep every avenue open today to bring the hostages home. So in regards to Qatar, for example, they do have communications that we don't have. They do have opportunities that we don't have. They have not been as effective as I would like to see them. There were a lot of false starts where we thought we were getting hostages released. It did not happen. But as many have said here today, we don't give up hope. And we'll continue to use those avenues to bring the hostages home safely. The same thing's true with the Israeli government.
Next question.
Can I take that?
Please.
Yeah, maybe I could talk about the Prime Minister.
Pardon? Sure.
I asked if any of the families of the hostages would like to.
Yeah. Hi, Time Watch. Time came up. My name is Ruby Chen, father of Itai Chen, U.S. citizen. Just to comment on Prime Minister Netanyahu, we all recognize the fact that he is responsible because it was on his watch what happened on October 7th, and he has the authority of bringing this to the finish line for us, the families. I think the main message that I have individually that I'd like to share is that the government many times have tried to talk about the day after, which is a component that has been missing from the dialogue of the cabinet of Israel. And we urge Prime Minister Netanyahu to have that discussion because it is an integral component of the day after and reaching a conclusion for us, for the families.
Hi, Senator. Thanks for doing this. Abby Hausliner from the Washington Post. I know you weren't sure what strategy Senator Schumer was talking about before. Obviously, all these families of hostages have talked about the things that the efforts that have been made clearly are not working in that 103 days have gone by and the hostages are still hostages. So what, beyond more of the same, beyond keeping the diplomatic channels open, beyond urging Qatar to do this, and what should a dramatically different strategy be employed, and what should that look like?
So we look at every opportunity, and we bring up the hostages at every opportunity. So within the last 24 hours, there have been conversations that I've had as the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee with our government officials and with Israeli government officials to try to understand where they are in regards to the military operations and in regards to humanitarian needs, et cetera, to see where we can make progress in regards to the hostages. And there has been a lot of efforts made that have not produced results. So I don't want to give any false hopes. But yes, there are initiatives that are taking place, as I understand it, but those initiatives don't always lead to successful hostage releases. So there are multiple avenues available, and we're pursuing them all. I don't know if I can say more than that. We continue to meet. There'll be some meaningful discussions tomorrow with Secretary Blinken so he can download the information from his trip. And I can assure you, we will be talking about hostage strategy during those meetings, how we can advance that. And that may involve some conversations with leaders from other countries. It may involve some conversations with the Israelis. And we'll see where it leads, and may be some strong suggestions as to what we need to do in order to be more effective in regards to hostages.
We have time for one more question.
Thank you so much for taking my question. Ellie Sennett with The National. We also heard from Ms. Naftali today that sometimes friends need to take harder messages to Israel. Not just the Biden administration. Do the senators here believe that Congress needs to take a harsher stance with its dealings with the Israelis through this process with the Netanyahu government, given what we've heard today?
So understand, our focus is to get the hostages home safely. That's our strategies. We want to use every effective avenue we have to achieve that. Some of those are conversations we have with Israelis. Some of those are conversations we have with leaders of other governments. Some of those are conversations that we have with our own country as to the strategies we're taking. And we have at times had very concrete progress made. Other times we've found that did not come out the way we thought it was. there are multiple factors here. It's not just one stakeholder that is controlling the outcome of the hostage release. You're dealing with a terrorist organization, with Hamas. There was no justification for taking the hostages at all whatsoever, innocent people. So you got to realize you're dealing with the mindset of individuals that don't have a value on innocent life. And that always makes it more challenging when someone doesn't have that type of value. So there's been multiple challenges as we go through this. Hamas obviously is looking at this for leverage. We think that is outrageous. They should have been released. As has been pointed out, the Red Cross should have had access. They should have been able to get health care. These are international standards, and yet we have not been effective in accomplishing that. We wanted that as part of some of the early negotiations on the hostages to get third-party eyes. Hamas denied that. I know it was part of the requests that have been made. So it's not. We're not going to give up. We're going to continue to use every method we have. And that at times will mean we'll be offering some strong suggestions to our own government, to the Israelis, and to third country leaders. We will not give up hope. We will always remember, and we must do more, and we will work every day to bring the hostages home safe to their families. Thank you all very much.